Great. I'm just giving a couple of minutes for people to join in, if that's okay. Um, Julie, are you here? I've just looked at my messages.
Yes, I am. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Parveen.
Morning. Okay, good. Okay, so thank you everybody for joining on International Nurses Day 2024. When I used to do this about 10 years ago, people used to, in the UK, International Nurses Day was not really a big thing. And there were hardly, I don't think people didn't know, or I guess somehow it wasn't that obvious that it is the birthday of Florence Nightingale when everybody in the world would celebrate it, and the UK and the Sheffield would not know where she was born and where, but that's not the case anymore. So we do celebrate International Nurses Day all across the world, which is the, as I said, birthday of the Florence Nightingale, who is identified as the modern mother of nursing. So this year's theme is Our Nurses, Our Future, the Economic Power of Care, which basically, I think, reminds us, and as nurses, that the economic contribution that we make to care, we are very good at making contributions, but we are not very good at making that contribution obvious or claiming the glory for that contribution. And I think that's what is needed right now. So thank you, colleagues who are present at DBTH. Thank you for joining us there. I hope you enjoy the presentation and the talks, and they're informative for you. Thank you to everyone who has joined us online from all across the world. There would be people joining it as we move along as well. So some sort of ground rules how the day is going to happen. So today there are some short presentations and there are some long presentations. We have got young nurses who are onto the studying into the nursing program. So they are presenting their posters. And we tried to do it slightly differently at this time, that rather than poster being presented as just a poster, they would get about 5 minutes to be able to explain their poster, to be explained their research. And I think that's a very good initiative in terms of the participants of the sessions understanding what the research is all about, and providing the speakers an opportunity, the researchers or the students an opportunity to present their work and also be able to explain it well. So it's a combination of short presentation of about 5 to 7 minutes that we are hoping for, and longer presentations, which are oral presentation between 15 to 20 minutes. Some ground rules for the sessions, please. If you could please keep yourself on mute. That would be great, because sometimes we are not, and I've done it myself, sometimes you're not aware when your speaker is on and people can see all sorts of conversation going on at the back. So if you could keep yourself on mute, please keep your cameras on and off as you see fit. If you have any comments and questions for any presentation, you can keep a note of it, or you could put it into the chat box. And after each session, each talk, we will try and take 1 or 2 comments or questions, and we'll try and have some discussions towards the end of the talk. I've kept this program slightly shorter for 2 hours, because anything above than that for on an online sort of platform, especially, or a hybrid event, can become a little difficult. So please keep a note of it. Those who are in DBTH, you could, Nikki is there and Sam is there and hosting that from that place. So you could ask questions and they will be able to add that into the chat box and raise those questions for you. So please, everybody who is either online or face-to-face, we would like you to be equal part of the session today. Again, if you have, as I say, you can put it into the chat box, but you can also use hand raise function. as we move along. And then you could put your mic on and you could ask your question from the speaker if you like, or if you have any other comment as we go along. Slide and recordings would be made available if people find it useful. We will also be issuing certificates of attendance, which you can then use it for your revalidation or different purposes, or sharing as an example of the learning that you have. What I will do is I'll share a link where you could add your name, email address, and information, which would then allow us to develop certificates, and we'll send it to you maybe next 2 to 4 weeks, if that's okay. Okay, so that is some ground rules and setting up for me. And now I would like to call upon Professor Sam Debich, who is our Director of Education and Research at Doncaster and Bassett Law Teaching Hospitals, to tell a little bit about herself, to say something about International Nurses Day, and to introduce our speaker, Karen. Thank you.
Thanks, Parveen. And as we are in the middle of Eurovision, I thought it would be quite fun. Good morning from Doncaster and Bassett Law Teaching Hospitals, England. This is our addition to the International Nurses Day. I thought it'd be really helpful just to give some context in relation to the economic power of care as our theme. And I think this really recognises the breadth and depth of opportunities and roles that nurses can undertake. I'm really proud to be a nurse and hold a position of a Director of Education and Research, which is really quite novel in a large acute teaching hospital. This demonstrates to me that nurses can lead, influence and care in so many ways. I'm really privileged to introduce our first keynote speaker, Karen Jessup. Karen is our chief nurse at DBTH and therefore my chief nurse, and I have the honour of working with Karen on a daily basis. Karen qualified as a registered nurse over 25 years ago. You won't believe it when you see her because that seems too long ago. She started her career in Hull in 1995, where she worked for 2 decades, holding a variety of roles across critical care and surgery. Karen then joined us, defaulted to South Yorkshire, but did remain in Yorkshire, and held some senior nursing leadership roles in Sheffield Teaching Hospitals as a Director of Nursing for Operating Services, Critical Care and Anaesthetics, before progressing into a Deputy Chief Nurse role at Sheffield Teaching Hospitals. And then, as I said, we were delighted that she moved to us at DBTH as our Chief Nurse. She is a really well-respected and recognised voice in South Yorkshire, England and beyond. And so I look forward to hearing Karen's reflections on our International Nurses Day today. Built you up there, Karen, and look forward to this conversation. Thanks very much, everyone, and we hope you enjoy the morning.
Thanks, Sam. And obviously, I was most delighted with the fact that you couldn't tell how long I've been a nurse for. So thank you for that, Sam. I'm delighted. So hello, everybody. After that introduction, my name is Karen and I'm the Chief Nurse at Doncaster and Bassett Law Teaching Hospitals. Welcome to you all. And of course, happy International Nurses Day 2024 on Sunday. As both Sam and Parveen have already described, the theme for IND 2024 is Our Nurses, Our Future, the Economic Power of Care. And I have to be honest, initially I was a little bit stumped and speechless, which those people that know me well know that doesn't happen very often, by this as topic and how to address that with you all as I open this celebratory day. However, with the help of some colleagues, they know who they are, thank you, because teamwork in my experience usually does find solutions, and by reviewing the scope provided by the International Council of Nurses, I now have some thoughts to share with you, and I promise I won't keep you very long because I'm sure you've got some really interesting speakers on the rest of the agenda. This year's theme of the economic power of care has a more profound significance to nursing and you and I as nurses that takes our power beyond the boundaries of hospital wards and healthcare facilities. This theme has been chosen to recognise the economic might inherent in the care we provide and to shed light on the pivotal role that nurses play in shaping the future of healthcare and society as a whole. And the International Council of Nurses describes this in their Charter for Change, which has 10 key aspects and uses really powerful language as a call to action globally, describing nurses as the essential life force for health. I recommend that you go to their website and read it because it really helped me to understand what they mean by that and what influence we can have as professional nurses on the economic power. Nursing as a profession, and Sam's just described this, is a profession that extends far beyond the work in acute care and far beyond the traditional bedside view of a nurse. Ours is a dynamic, evolving and adaptable profession delivered in multiple different environments, from the clinical to the home and practiced globally. Ours is a profession of care, compassion and empathy, yes, but it's also so much more. It's also a safety critical profession, one of vigilance, knowledge and expertise, requiring the ability to manage complex work, navigate the entire spectrum of human emotion, be part of, lead and form teams, and of course don't forget to document it all. Studies have consistently demonstrated the cost effectiveness of nursing interventions, from reducing medication errors and preventing pressure ulcers to impacting and reducing mortality. The impact of nursing care on healthcare costs cannot be overstated, and by providing timely interventions and promoting health education, nurses help prevent costly complications that would otherwise burden healthcare systems and patients alike. We are also the linchpin of healthcare efficiency. We are the ones who coordinate care in increasingly complex environments and systems. We communicate with multi-professional teams and ensure continuity throughout the patient journey. Every day, by small actions and big ones, nurses play a key role in maximising the efficiency of healthcare delivery, with the ultimate aim of supporting patients. But the economic value of nursing care goes beyond immediate cost savings. It extends into the realm of workforce productivity and societal well-being. When patients receive high-quality nursing care, they are more likely to recover faster and return to their daily lives sooner. This translates into fewer missed work days, increased productivity, and a healthier, more prosperous society overall. And let's not forget the invaluable role of nurses in preventive care and health promotion. By conducting screenings, advocating for healthy lifestyles, and addressing social determinants of health, nurses help prevent chronic conditions and again reduce the burden on healthcare systems. Nurses play a critical part in education and research, developing research, identifying research opportunities, participating in research from the germination of an idea to the implementation in clinical practice, wherever that may be. The economic power of nurses cannot be underestimated. We are not only caregivers. Every intervention we make, every life we touch, contributes positively to our communities and the sustainability of our healthcare systems. We need to own that and understand truly our worth as a profession and make sure that others understand it too. Nursing never stands still and is constantly evolving and adapting to the needs of our communities and our patients. And I've seen that throughout my very short career. And I know that others in the room will have done so too. We sometimes get a bit stuck in the traditional. No, I'm definitely not going to talk about uniforms here. But we are always at the front of innovation, trying new technologies, adapting our professional boundaries to meet the needs of our patients, embracing advanced clinical practice roles in an ever-changing political, societal and financial landscape. We need to recognise and celebrate our strengths as a profession and our economic value to society. Recognise and value our profession's unique skills, knowledge and expertise, and never underestimate the impact we have, the impact each one of you has at every interaction, every moment, and never forget the uniquely privileged positions we hold. Thank you. I'm handing back to you, Sam.
Yeah, thanks, Karen. I was just checking, there was no conversation in the chat. So I'm not sure if anyone's got any questions who are online. Oh, there's some hands up from our Restore nurses on the screen. Thank you, ladies.
Yeah, just to comment really to say thank you so much. That was such a, thank you, Karen. That was a really inspiring talk, and we Sabra and I, we just found ourselves nodding along with so much of what you were saying, frantically writing notes. Some of the words you said were, yeah, really, yeah, hit the nail on the head. You know, this essential life force for health is what nurses are, and yeah, it just resonates with yeah, our values. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. I should also just say, particularly for you, Cameron, there's about 25 of our colleagues in Doncaster and Bassetlaw in our training rooms joining in with this conversation. So I'm sure, yeah, there you go, you're waving now. If colleagues haven't got any questions today, I'm sure that they might email you following this as well.
Of course, stop me on the corridor when they see me and things like that.
Perfect. Thanks, Cameron. And this will be available as a recording as well. So actually, those inspirational words we can come back to, and we can think about taking quotes out of it, because that was really, really nice, Cameron. Thank you. So if there are no more questions, I can't see any more. So thank you, Karen. I'm delighted now to welcome Richard West, who is a lecturer in mental health nursing at Sheffield Hallam University, who's going to share with us the student nurses taking a break in study. Some slides and overview. If I hand over to you, Richard, if that is okay. Thank you.
Thanks for handing over. Shall I share my screen? Is that the best?
Yeah, that's fine. Can I just come in? I mean, thank you everybody for sending your slides. Not everybody was able to do it, and some people wanted to change it. So please, can you make sure that your slides are ready whenever your turn is, and we'll be able to help you show your screens if that's okay. So Richard, you should be able to share your slides now.
Oh, fantastic. So thank you very much for having us today. I'm just going to make sure I've got that. Is that in full screen? So yeah, thank you very much, and happy International Nurses Day. And I was thinking about this economic power of care, and the kind of link that I would make from this morning is that we want well-being to be a thread that runs through nursing education. So when nurses graduate, they're feeling kind of like they're sustainable in their kind of practice, and can kind of practice with compassion. And I think that really is what I'm kind of talking at today with this study. So in the next 10 minutes, I'm going to talk a little bit about the student experience of a break-in study. And just to say, these are the initial results. And I really I'd find it very valuable, because I know there's a lot of experience in the room, if you can kind of contribute towards the end with any kind of feedback or anything like that. So yeah, I'm Richard West. I'm a mental health nurse and lecturer for the last 2 years. Just to acknowledge Jane German, who's a lecturer in biosciences, who's been really invaluable in building this project, and 2 students, Freya and Jafrul, who have really kind of co-produced the survey and kind of looked at through my interview guide. So we've got a bit of co-production and like added their student perspective as well, because it has been a little while since I studied. So yeah, so let's get going on the presentation. So a little bit of background. So as I said, I've been a lecturer now for 2 years, and just anecdotally, I found that some students would join my academic advising group and leave. And so just as a language thing, that's like the tutorial group. So as an academic advisor, I'd see these nurses, these student nurses, through their 3-year degree. And so I'm kind of like the contact, the approachable person if they have any difficulties. But what I noticed was students would, like, that group would often change. And I wasn't quite sure what was going on. So I kind of like spoke to colleagues, spoke to co-workers, and I found out that a lot of students take breaks in study. So just a little definition, because I know different universities will use different language. So a break in study is a voluntary decision to temporarily suspend studies for a minimum of 6 months and a maximum of 24 months. And like I said, there's no shared language between universities. Hallam uses break in study. I think Uni at Sheffield might use something like pause in study. So it's a bit different. So the definitions are a little bit different and the language isn't shared. And actually, so I kind of spoke to colleagues, and I did a good little evidence review. So I kind of used CNAL, all the kind of search engines, and there's very little written about this decision from a student perspective, like how it affects student well-being, their progression. And actually, so then I went to to my colleague Carmel Bond, who's a really experienced researcher, and we kind of wrote a paper based on some adjacent theories, and that's going to be published in the Nursing Times in July. And a couple of theories that I thought were really important and interesting were the staff-student relationship. So that's correlated with student success and student progression. And as you can imagine, and this is speculation, that in a year away from studying, that kind of staff-student relationship will deteriorate. And then they're often, when they come back onto the course, they'll be given a new academic advisor because they're in a new year group. But the other thing that's quite, I think, important in nursing education, it was certainly important for me and important when I graduated and in my preceptorship year, was this kind of sense of belonging. So like developing an identity as, so I'm a mental health nurse, but as an adult nurse or as a children's nurse, and kind of understanding that they're kind of part of this group of nurses, and like they're kind of those values that come from that, and that sense of belonging again will be disrupted in a break of study. So I think it's a way of kind of identifying students who are actually at risk of withdrawing from the course or at risk of kind of their well-being deteriorating. So I suppose here's a little from the background. I want to give you an overview of what I did. So I've kind of come at this from 3 different angles. So firstly, I spoke to Hallam and reviewed current university data on break and study. And so I got some kind of spreadsheets back and made sense of that. I've done a Qualtrics survey, so kind of sent that out to around about 600 students and got 68 responses. And now I'm just kind of piloting some semi-structured interviews, so some kind of more in-depth qualitative interviews. And what I'd like to see, and I think this comes down to like some kind of intrinsic, extrinsic motivations, is like some like real recommendations for the university of how we can work with students who have taken a break in study. So how to support them coming back onto the course. So firstly, a little bit of context. So if I'd found out that 2 students last year had returned from a break in study, this wouldn't be an issue, right? So I think the first starting point is to kind of get some evidence to understand the issue, because I've just found this out like anecdotally. So this graphic represents how many students returned from a break in study in 23, 24. So from biosciences, there were 83, from nursing, and that's all fields of nursing, there's 313. And from AHP, there's 330. And the reason I've kind of got these 3 categories is just the way that Hallam is organized. So with the health, wellbeing, and life sciences. So this represents the whole of our college. And so this kind of pie chart shows that up to 20% of students were returning from a break in study last year alone. And so that's not including students who have decided, okay, I'll take a break in study, but I've decided not to return. So I'm saying, okay, so I think this justifies the study just in terms of data, that it is a significant issue. So what did I do? So the survey, so of course, went through ethics, went through Converis, got ethical approval. So the first question that we asked was kind of demographics, and we did this all anonymously. So kind of one interesting finding that we've already got is students are more likely to take a break and study if they're above 30 years old. And I'll go into that a little bit more detail on the next slide. So broadly, it was kind of divided into experiences around taking a break and study, experiences during that break, that's 6 months to a year, and experiences reintegrating onto the course. So the first question that I was interested in was, so I sent it to 726 students via email, and 68 responded, and that's around kind of 25 nurses, 20 AHPs, and 7 bioscience students. And from the percentages, you can see that kind of reflects, we've got a good broad representation from all the kind of disciplines there. And so my first question was, how was the process? You know, was it advertised well enough? Do we need to look at kind of creating a new website explaining this? But actually 88% of students on the survey found it neutral to very easy. Most of the comments were very positive around, they spoke to that academic advisor, or they spoke to Hallam Help, and like they had to fill out a form, but there was no issues there. So that was my first kind of question, and that was there's no issue there. So then the next one was like looking more into kind of reasons to take a break and study. So of course, I'd say if you're not comfortable kind of filling this out, please don't. And it was all anonymous, of course. So I think the first theme, so this is from the free text questions on the survey, were kind of physical and mental health issues. And I think, you know, we're all quite aware of mental health, student mental health in the news at the minute. So I thought this was quite interesting. So, so from a health-related issue, we can imagine kind of things like cancer, surgery, stem cell transplants. These things required medical treatment and required time away from the course. So with the mental health side of things, it was often exacerbation of pre-existing mental health issues from the course. It is a demanding course, let's be honest. Like nursing, you need 2,100, 2,300 hours in placement. And on top of that, we're doing coursework. So it was a key theme. And I'd like to kind of in time unpick that a little bit. So experiences, stress, anxiety, depression, grief, negative experiences. So those were kind of the reasons to take a break and study, and they needed a period of adjustment to kind of step off the course and come back. The second was family and maternity. So a number of respondents said they'd become pregnant on the course and needed that time away from the course in terms of early parenthood and kind of committing to that, but also family caring responsibilities. And I think that kind of goes to show like a lot of students aren't actually kind of that are taking break and study aren't kind of 19, they're actually kind of in their 30s and they have families and other responsibilities. And that was a reason for a break and study. Also professional factors. So a lot of students, and including international students, which I thought was a really interesting point here, kind of came in working full-time and with this expectation they could continue to work full-time on the course. And I think we can all appreciate here as either students or nurses who've gone through nursing, it's nigh not possible to work full-time while doing a nursing course. There's a lot of demands on students, kind of academically, placement related. It's a really kind of it's a lot, the course, and like, so is it an adjustment to kind of coming onto the course and realizing that actually financially maybe they couldn't afford it unless they kind of built up some savings and then came back to the course. And then the last one was life transitions. So things such as moving home, but moving home kind of relationships, but also quite moving stories of kind of like leaving quite violent relationships that are coming out of those. So those are the reasons for taking a break and study. And then from the free text again, what was your experiences returning to the university? So I want to flip this on its head a little bit. So I want to say a lot of students, well, quite a few students said the break and study was really positive and it allowed them to kind of develop coping strategies for the course. So it actually built up their resilience. So when they came back, they felt much more capable and competent of kind of completing the course. They knew what to expect, and their kind of experiences of anxiety and stress actually kind of were much better. At the same time, a lot of students felt that the experience coming back onto the course was it also invoked feelings of anxiety and stress. So the picture, it's really not clear. Like some students, it kind of provoked anxiety and stress. Some students it didn't, and the break and study was a really kind of beneficial thing. So this is a bit of a mixed picture. So one of the other themes that came out of the survey is social integration. So students have their kind of peers in their year group, and if they take a break and study for a year, they're in a completely different cohort, so they don't know their peers, and that kind of that led to their own challenges. They weren't sure who to ask. They weren't sure how to kind of who to approach in terms of like socializing, in terms of kind of going for a coffee and a catch up of like what the expectations are from the course. Of course, the lecturers are all available and the academic advisors are available, but sometimes students prefer to speak to peers, of course. Academic adjustment. So I just like this phrase. It was like getting back into the groove. I think we can all appreciate studying is it's a scaffold skill. So we're like, you know, first year is about kind of professional values, learning how to find evidence, reference it. And then like second and third year, like we're kind of learning more about like critiquing knowledge, kind of synthesizing knowledge. So it's scaffold. So like as we get to the dissertation, that's like the pinnacle of like the student experience. So they're kind of expected to perform in third year. So if a student, for example, takes a break in second to third year, getting back into that kind of academic way of thinking and writing is quite difficult, and it's quite a steep learning curve. And finally, there were specific challenges for online courses. So included in the survey were students, advanced care practitioners, and those are taught predominantly online. And students on those courses felt it was really difficult, and they talked about that in the survey about coming back. So kind of rebuilding those peer networks was more difficult for online courses. So the third kind of arm of this project is a bit of an interview pilot. So using this data from the Qualtrics survey, using all this kind of themes, and kind of asking questions in a more like in-depth interview. So 30 to 45-minute interviews with students. And I hope to gain like a more rich, detailed understanding of the themes from the survey, and like, again, build some recommendations for the universities. One example would be like a re-entry interview. So I've had one interview, and it was a really good experience, and I've kind of adjusted my interview guide now based on that experience. And I just found this one from the interview really kind of quite poetic. And I said, well, how was it coming back onto the course? And she said, I was like stepping into a void. And I hope that's kind of that emotion of that kind of that phrase is like something that has kind of I've reflected on, and I thought, well, how can we kind of fill that void? How can we kind of create some steps so that you come back onto the course feeling a little bit more prepared? Of course, like any journey into kind of research, that I've kind of created more questions than I've actually answered. So I kind of wanted to know next, like, what are the graduation and attainment rates following a break in study? Is this phenomenon seen across other universities, and what supports would help when students do return? So yeah, thank you for your attention this morning. Happy International Nurses Day. And yeah, if you do have any questions or feedback, I'd be really keen to hear them. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you for a great presentation, very great insights into something that we don't necessarily talk about much. And I really like the graphics that you've used into the PowerPoint. So any questions, anyone? You could put it into the chat box, or you could also raise your hand and can just talk yourself.
The website was Canva, if anyone wants the graphics.
Excellent. So Chris has a question. So hi, Chris.
Yeah, hi, thanks very much. Good morning, Praveen. Good morning, everyone. Chris Morning here, Chief Nurse, Sheffield Children's Hospitals. Richard, thank you. That was a really interesting presentation, and I think probably less of a question, more just to thank you for that, and agree, interesting issue. Wasn't aware of how significant the numbers were. That was quite a shock, if I'm honest. Interesting as well about the mixed picture for emotional well-being. And I guess in terms of your questions for future study, I think probably what I'd also be interested in is how easy do they then find it to go into professional practice? Is there any impact? Is it easier to go straight through a course and in, or if you have a break, is that beneficial, neutral, or a detriment? So I'd be interested in that as well. But thank you very much. Thought it was yeah, really thought-provoking. Thanks, Praveen.
Richard?
It is really interesting, isn't it? And this attrition rate, I think that is more kind of seen in like the evidence around kind of nursing attrition. And yeah, it is really interesting. And I think if we kind of think about like nursing predictions in terms of workforce, I think this kind of fits in a little bit. That's a really interesting question, a kind of longitudinal question of like, if you do take a break in study, how is it in your preceptorship year? I think that's a really interesting question. And experiences on placement. That was one reason actually students did take a break in study, because they'd had kind of a negative experience on placement and kind of understanding that. So yeah, it would be interesting to see how they kind of find professional practice once they return as well.
Did you find anything in the literature? Because of course, in terms of by virtue of who you're going to get into the program or return back would be people who have already returned, isn't it? So there would be people who have decided, well, okay, fine, I'm out of it now. So let's just stay. So, it's really difficult to get into it. But did you find anything in the literature available around that?
Around what, sorry?
Around the topic that people who take a break and come back, is there any my understanding is it's quite a unique and new topic. I don't think there's much literature, but you're the expert on that. So I was just asking, is there anything that you found in the literature?
Yeah, I found it really difficult to find anything kind of written about this. And I think it's partly because there's different language, like different universities will use different languages, but I have found some things about, like, the Open University are very good at kind of structured programs, but it was all aimed at like maths graduates. So it was kind of like, this is the kind of structured things that you need to come back to the course. But in terms of specifically student nurses, I didn't find anything there. It is interesting because I'm interviewing the students who've decided to come back. So that's the email addresses that the university were willing to share with us. So it's, yeah, again, there's a bit of a bias there because they're probably already wanting to come back to them.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much, Richard. And I think you've got a kind of an area for yourself invented. I don't think there is a lot around this. And, if you could actually explore quite a lot in terms of how does it affect different fields of nursing? People are coming in, does it have anything different in terms of if you take a break as an undergraduate or postgraduate or, all those different things. And so really fascinating to hear what you've presented today, but I think there's a lot of potential with that particular topic going ahead. So thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. So that if anybody has any other questions, please do write into the chat box and we'll be able to pass it on to Richard, and Richard will also be able to see chat box and would be able to answer. If you want to connect with him, that would also be really great. That brings me on to our next speaker, who is Sarah Gardner. He's the clinical evidence specialist from Doncaster and Bassetlaw Teaching Hospital, and Nikki Wilkinson, who is our educator, and she has just told me her proper title and I have already kind of forgotten, so you can see the state of my mind. But Nikki, I'm sure, will be able to introduce herself, and Sarah both. So they are going to talk about research talent spotting at Curiosity Cafe. Over to you both. Thank you. Yes, she's education lead nurse for research. So I hope that's now correct.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I'm Sarah Gardner. I'm the clinical evidence specialist at Doncaster and Bassetlaw.
And I'm Nikki Wilkinson, and I'm the education lead nurse for research at DBTH. And I am a nurse by background. I don't want to tell you how many years I've been qualified. I actually did my nurse training at Doncaster Royal Infirmary in the old school of nursing quite a few years ago. So, but I wanted to come today because it is International Nurses Day, and I really want to kind of share and celebrate this new venture that we are undertaking at Doncaster and Bassetlaw Teaching Hospital. And it's a way of trying to engage with our staff, staff who are at that very early stage of being research interested, and how we kind of identify those research curious individuals, and maybe even staff that don't even know that they are curious about research.
So the Trust's research department has put a lot of effort into engaging with staff who are already research active. I sit on the Trust's Clinical Academic Research Steering Group, and I'd observed that I could see stages before research active. So before you can become research active, you have to be research interested. And before research interested becomes research curious. And at that point, ideas were fizzing away. So I took immediate action to consider it further and to come up with a plan. And key to the plan was Nikki, and also Hannah, our clinical therapies research lead. Now, we already knew each other from previous projects, so our first meeting was great fun. We needed a way to collect people up. We were thinking of the people that come into the Knowledge and Library Service, and they have their database search skills training to support their master's dissertations, for example. But we also wanted to find people on wards and in departments who were a little bit research curious. That could include wanting to carry out service improvements, all sorts of early little flames to fan, really. So it sparked a lot of ideas about how to engage with these people and fan the flames and move them along that pathway from research curious to research interested to research active.
So we set up a research curious email address, and this allows them people to email into us and maybe just ask questions that they may kind of have in that kind of background, that kind of interest that they want. We've advertised this over our staff's internet and our staff's Facebook page. Sarah, Hannah and myself, we actually man that and we answer any queries, and we're also then able to signpost off where they might need support and advice further. But as a nurse, I also realised how really busy we are in those clinical environments, that staff don't always have time to be looking at emails or accessing that kind of information. So we kind of wanted to think of a different way of trying to engage within our staff. So we kind of decided that if we want people to be engaged, maybe we need to go out to those clinical environments and actually talk to the staff face to face. So what we did was as many years have been a nurse, we also know that how many staff like cups of tea, coffee and cakes. So we knew we'd probably be onto a winner with that. So we then decided maybe we need to take a tea trolley out to those clinical areas with tea and coffee, and then have an environment, a safe environment where then staff could actually talk to us. So part of that trolley is we needed some special ingredients, and those special ingredients was our tea trolley with hot drinks and cake, essentially, and a research rhino, because our mascot for Doncaster is our research rhino. We also have the fabulous Keely, who's kind of coordinates everything. She's our admin and she supports that and manages our diaries and also manages action logs and Teams meetings that we might have and having those interactions with the clinical areas. We also have Hannah. So in shot one, we have Hannah there with the baby rhino as well. So we do have a baby rhino. And we worked our contacts to the lead clinical scientist. So we went down, the first visit was down to the pathology coffee room, and that was our pilot venue just to see if there was that kind of interest there. Grace is also another ingredient that we'd need within our team, and she's the directorate's comms person. So she creates our page, she creates posters, she also sends out QR codes, and it wouldn't be complete without Sarah, who is amazing at baking, and she provides all of the cakes for all of our sessions.
So our second trip was to pathology. We've been to pathology. We went to the multidisciplinary team at Rehab 1 at Montague. And I can see there, I took a sticky ginger cake and a lemon drizzle. And then we went to physio outpatients at DRI, which was a marble cake, I think. And then we went to ward A4 at Bassetlaw, and we had a wonderful spice honey cake and a really amazing range of rolls that came to talk to us. That trolley gets absolutely everywhere, thanks to Nikki's capacious car boot. So just a little snapshot of the places we visited so far. We'll talk in a little while about where we're going in the future. But I bet you're curious, why is the Knowledge and Library Service involved at all? It's the talent spotting opportunities that I saw, to be honest. Librarians are absolutely perfectly placed to spot that kind of research. So when students, particularly master's students, come in and they want database search skills for their dissertation, it's obvious some of them have just got that spark, the right attributes for a good clinical academic researcher. And the trick is to catch them in the right state of mind and be able to direct them to appropriate sources of support and funding, etc. I mean, we already support research in a lot of different ways. Our department is really well integrated, I think, and this gives us another opportunity to make further good contacts. But I have to say, I mean, I'm a librarian. I've got a fancy job title, but I am a librarian. Finding answers to questions is our superpower. And some of those questions in the Curiosity Cafe are absolutely right up my street. So when we went to pathology, the lead clinical scientist said, "Oh, could you deliver critical appraisal training to our microbiology staff? Because some of them are gearing up for their FRC Path 1 exams. And if you could do that, could you facilitate a regional journal club?" Well, yes, I can. Then we went to Montague, and one of the people that attended the cafe there was looking to do some patient engagement with stroke patients with communication difficulties for part of her service improvement project. But Hannah knew an expert in the field and had recommended a book on how to approach and communicate with kind of hard to reach patients. Ooh, let me a little clicking there. Seldom Heard Voices in Service User Involvement. I went back to base. The very next day, we were able to source the ebook version of the book, which is perfect for our staff at Montague because they're not at our DRI base, but we're also purchasing the hard copy. So those kind of things are absolutely library bread and butter. So from a knowledge and library service perspective, I'm having a fab time. I get into departments that I never would normally be able to reach. So I'm leaving library business cards in tea rooms all over the place. And getting responses back from that. People are finding them and contacting me saying, oh, can you just, which is wonderful. And as I mentioned, making even stronger connections with research staff in the Trust, which is always a joy. And kind of steering this Curiosity Cafe work stream for the Clinical Academic Steering Group means it's really good visibility for the Knowledge and Library Service. And to be honest, we're often in the shadows where we needn't live. So this is a little bit of sunshine for some of the services that we're able to offer.
So Hannah unfortunately can't be here with us today, and she is part of the trio of individuals that started this off. So we still wanted you to kind of have an insight of why Hannah thought it was really important for her to be part of this journey. So Hannah is our clinical therapy research lead, and so is responsible for promoting and supporting research throughout the clinical therapist teams. She is Hannah regularly sends out emails out to the allied health professionals, and she's always trying to engage individuals. But this gives her the perfect opportunity to actually go out to those areas and meet people face to face, actually putting a name behind all of those emails to be able to support our staff. Hannah contacts the teams on a personal level. She also tries to burst the myths around research. So it's not all scary, it's not all for the academics, that actually anybody, if they've got those questions or that curiosity, could actually be involved. Hannah also helps to understand the different priorities within those clinical areas and the needs of the individual clinicians within those teams, which helps us to support research and evidence base across clinical therapies. And Hannah's also been through that clinical academic career pathway as well. She has a very unique perspective to give to individuals to help support them taking that next step into research. So myself, the education research lead, I mean, I always like baking and cakes anyway, so it was kind of a win-win situation for me as well. I also know from my background that actually that kind of engagement for clinical staff, we need to be out there, we need to be present. And research as well within a lot of organisations is kind of not always celebrated, and the awareness always needs to be raised. So for me, doing the Curiosity Cafe allows me to raise that awareness of what clinical research is and what activities we're undertaking at Doncaster and Bassetlaw Teaching Hospital. I'm able to explain and discuss the importance of clinical research and the positive impact that it can provide for our patient care. Be able to provide let staff be accessible to research, make it that kind of relatable to them, that it's not just added work, that it's not extra work, that actually is centered to everything that we do. And it allows me to build that growth and that positive culture around research. Part of that is breaking down those preconceived ideas of what research is. We still have that kind of idea that a lot of staff think I'm just doing assignments or dissertations. It's a lot of data and all of that kind of stuff. They don't realise that actually I'm a clinical nurse behind that role. So it's a great way of being able to build those relationships with our staff. I'm also able to, so I also facilitate for the National Institute of Health Research, and I do the good clinical practice training and informed consent training that people need to undertake if they want to be involved in research. And it allows me to then highlight all of these education opportunities for our staff. I'm also able to support those research naive areas. Once staff have undertaken all of the training, there may be an area that wants to be involved, but don't quite know how to be involved in a clinical trial, what that means, what that looks like. And I'm able to help support those areas to develop their own staff to undertake their own clinical trials. And I suppose as well, along with Hannah and Sarah, it's providing that support for that clinical academic career pathway. A lot of people find that quite daunting. A lot of people find it very difficult to understand how they can access that, what's the best place, what courses to do. And then that helps us share those programmes with our staff and encourage them to be involved in them.
So we have been trying to gauge impact as we've gone along, and we've quizzed people who've attended a Research Cafe event, and we've got some feedback. And the things that I've pulled out here, they're sort of the overwhelmingly popular responses when we say, how did the Curiosity Cafe help you? Personal professional development was mentioned in all of our respondents. Some people have been asking about writing for publication on the basis of their existing research, or trying to convert their dissertation into an article, and we can help with that. I've had requests for database search skills training to support further academic work, also for systematic reviews. There's all sorts of reasons why the Curiosity Cafe was useful, including accessing the extra research training that Nikki provides, for example, the good clinical practice. And many people that come have gone on to share the information that they gained with staff and colleagues. I've got a little chart there, and it was really pleasing to see that people were finding new ideas were generated by attending, improving their confidence, gaining new skills. These are all really valuable impacts from pushing the trolley around with some coffee and cake and being willing to have a chat in their place of work in a time that suits them. I particularly like these two quotes that I've pulled out. So we had really lovely feedback after we went to A4 at Bassetlaw. We're very excited to link with the research department to explore the more recent evidence base for our treatments and how our teams work. I think that was really valuable to know from our perspective, that our aims were actually, coming true. And the quote on the right there from someone that I did some advanced search skills training for: "Thank you so much for the session yesterday. It was beneficial from a skills perspective, and also to discuss the likelihood of a systematic review being feasible for the topic and my skill set." I think that it's really helpful to know that my presence on the Curiosity Coffee round is proving valuable, and it gives people the encouragement to contact me afterwards and set up training at a time that suits them, or ask any questions that they have.
So I suppose we kind of then look about, this is the impact. It seems to be working really well. We kind of came up with this idea and we wasn't quite sure where it was going to go, or if there would be that kind of interest. And what we've actually found is that people are actually coming to us and asking us to go to those clinical areas, which I think shows the massive impact of people actually want to be engaged. So the next step is kind of looking at how do we facilitate that? How do we man that? We've also talked about having Curiosity Cafe coffee mornings, where graduates can present their research dissertations. It's great that we're undertaking research, but I think we're also quite bad at presenting and actually showcasing and highlighting all the amazing work that we've kind of done in and around research. We want to plan on developing the cafe more, so that we're going to go out and meet more clinical areas, and I suppose support staff within those areas if they want to be undertaking that clinical academic career pathway, or if we can then support them maybe even starting clinical trials within that area. Oh, Sarah's going straight through them all now. If they want to leave there, or maybe even find out that we might have some research link nurses that want to be involved in research, or allied health professionals, and kind of linking in there and seeing what other people would like and what support we can offer to them.
Yeah, sorry, that was a trigger thing going on there. I was going to sort of finish off with showing you how we sign off on our intranet page. So you're welcome at one of our events, whatever your job role and however far along the research curious path you've travelled. Bring your curiosity, come and have a drink and a conversation, because you just never know where it might lead. So thank you very much for your attention this morning. If there's time, we're very happy to take questions.
Thank you, Sarah and Nikki. That is wonderful, and what a great initiative. So thank you for doing that, and I'm sure people are finding it useful. We are getting a lot of, I'm not saying questions, but initiatives developed from it, as you all know. But any questions and comments, anyone? Hi, Chris.
Hi, Parveen. Thanks very much, Sarah and Nikki. Really, really enjoyed that. I just wondered, have you thought about having topic cafes? So by that, I might suggest something like, we're going to hold a cafe. It's going to be on dementia, and that might bring people together from different departments or areas of interest to kind of share and spark off one another. So just wondered, but really I thought it was an excellent initiative. And you've made me very hungry, because I've listed 4 cakes that you mentioned, which was a a bit naughty at 11 o'clock in the morning when it's not quite lunchtime. So thanks for that as well. So yeah, thank you. That's the question.
Thank you very much. That's a really good idea.
Any other questions or comment at all, anyone?
I can see a hand raised on the
Yeah.
nurses.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you. That was really interesting. Oh, I can hear my echo back, but I'm just going to power through. I work at St Luke's Hospice, and I've just started a role there as a research champion. And so much of what you've just said really, yeah, it really resonates with I think how nurses feel about research, and it can feel quite alienating and quite exclusive. Like I said, I've just started the role, and I'd love to meet with you, outside of this, just to discuss how you're getting on, and if you've got any advice, anything to share. I'm not a good baker, so I'm going to have to find ways and try and go in that way. But yeah, I'd love to catch up and meet with you sometime. So yeah, thanks. It was really interesting and really encouraging. So thank you.
Yeah, sure. What's your name? Is that on Restore? Sorry, it's coming as a Restore Nurses.
Oh yeah, sorry. So I'm Emma, and this is Saba. Yeah.
Hi, Saba. Hi, Emma. I was just going to say, yes, please do get in touch with Sarah and ourselves as well, because I think we may also be able to suggest people which you, even if it's a correct hospice that we are thinking. Sam is there. We could also probably be able to link you up with other people in there, or suggest something. That's
amazing. Yeah, it'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Any other question? Sorry. Go on,
Sorry, I couldn't find my thing. I've just joined my office again. I was just going to say to the St Luke's ladies, we host the Echo platform and model, and the cafe might be an opportunity to use that platform across South Yorkshire. So, and I think Chris's question around it being topic specific could be really exciting to us all. So I'll pick that up with some academic group across South Yorkshire for a consideration and discussion. So thanks, ladies. That's really helpful.
Thanks.
You just have to sneak in, you see, look.
See, it's only a matter of asking, and you can get a lot of help and support, and kind of at least suggestions from different people. So do get in touch, Emma. Thank you, Nikki and Sarah. And Emma, I'm going to get the next speaker, and then you're taking over, Nikki. Is that okay?
Fantastic. Thank you, Parveen.
Yeah. Okay. So then it brings me to our next speaker, who is Nicola Helen-Jackson. Nicola is a student nurse at University of Sheffield, and she's going to talk about what is the role of community nurse in providing family centre care to people with dementia. So Nicola, I'm just going to share your poster. Tell me, this is the correct one, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, off you go.
Okay, thank you. So good morning, everybody. My name is Nicola Jackson, and I'm a third-year undergraduate student nurse with the University of Sheffield. I'd like to share with you today, this is just a poster presenting a literature review that I recently undertook in order to try and determine what is the role of the community nurse in providing family-centred care to people with dementia. So the reason that I chose this topic for my literature review is because I've got personal experience of looking after family members with dementia, and I really know the importance of enabling people with dementia to be able to live at home with their loved ones in the community and in familiar surroundings. Just to confirm, by community nurse in this literature review, I refer to all types of nurses that a person with dementia might come across within the community. So your community nurse who goes visiting people's houses, district nurses, community mental health nurses, and also practice nurses with working perhaps at a GP practice within the community. When I first set out to do my literature review, I really wanted to do it around the importance of day centres and short stay respite care for people with dementia. But because of the lack of research out there, I was unable to do that because I just couldn't find enough literature able to undertake a literature review on that specific topic. It was really important to me that I wanted to look at the importance of day centres for people with dementia and their carers. Because in 2016 in Sheffield City Council closed down all daycare centres that provided respite, so day respite for people with dementia. And I think that they closed them all down despite 8,000 people signing a petition to keep them open and protests outside the town hall. The council still closed them down. And they set out a plan to say that they'd replace them with something, and still all these years later, I'm not really quite sure what they've replaced them with. I don't think they've replaced them with anything at all. So despite the lack of literature on that, I obviously went with this current question that I've got up here on the poster. Another reason that I wanted to do it on this specific topic of the community nurse is because I'd really like to pursue a career in community nursing. So I'd like to find out what I could do in order to help people with dementia be able to live well in the community. So just a little bit of background on dementia. So dementia is an umbrella term that is used to describe a syndrome. It's a set of symptoms which vary from person to person. Dementia was the leading cause of death in 2022. It's very recently, in the last couple of years, being overtaken by sort of cardiovascular disease. But it is still and has been the leading cause of death for women since 2011. The prevalence rate is estimated to be 7.1%, which is it's expected to increase as life expectancy continues to rise. And it's estimated that 120,000 people with dementia live completely alone in the community. And community nurses are well placed to provide family-centred care to people with dementia to enable them to maintain their independence. So just a little bit about the methodology that I used in the literature review. So a review of the literature was undertaken using a systematic approach in October 2023. Electronic databases, including CINAHL and Medline, were used to search for the literature. The same search terms were used in each electronic database to ensure equality of searches. And limiters were applied. So as you can see on the diagram at the bottom, there was a large number of results, but after title screening, removing duplicates, etc., I came to just 8 items of literature to be used for the review. Obviously, it's such a big subject. It's so important for people with dementia to be able to live at home, yet there's such little literature out there available. So there's not very much research at all that explores the topic. So after reviewing the literature, 4 key themes were identified. The first was the importance of the recognition of early nurse intervention, with a named nurse being provided to every person with dementia who can keep regular contact. Many people with dementia and their carers find that after a diagnosis of dementia, they're given a lot of information, they're in shock because they've just received a diagnosis, and then they're sent off. And when they get home, that's when they think of so many different questions that they wish they'd have asked during that consultation. But if they was given a named nurse that they'd be able to contact and a phone number for them, it'd be really helpful for them to be able to just a quick phone call and ask any queries that they might have. Community and practice nurses often get to know their patients and families over a number of years, and they'd be really well placed to notice changes in personality and cognition. This early recognition could provide a timely referral for diagnosis, which would ensure that appropriate support would be put in place. And the person with dementia would be able to spend more time, and their family would be able, and more likely to, the nurse would be able to recognise and respond to any change. The second theme that was found links in with the first, and it suggests that nurse time restrictions and lack of nurse education are a real barrier to providing excellent care. The third theme was the need for improved multidisciplinary working, whether that be nurse referral to GP for diagnosis or referrals once diagnosed, such as to social services, memory services, or for social activities. The fourth theme is the need for increased awareness of the need for carer support and education. Abel et al. Reported that carer resilience is key to enabling people with dementia to remain living at home and prevent hospital admissions or the need to move to a care home. With the right support, carers would be educated on how to care for a person with dementia and support themselves, and it would be really good at building resilience. As you can see on the poster there on the picture in the middle, it shows that £11.6 billion is spent on unpaid care. That's a really big impact on the UK economy as a whole. And it also links in really well with International Nurses Day and the economic value of nurses. We can have a really great impact on helping keep people with dementia out of care homes and avoid hospital admission, and just by supporting them at home and supporting their carers. So throughout the literature, it was found that nurses often did know when the time was right for people with dementia. They noticed problems with cognition, but they reported that they didn't feel confident to begin a conversation to ask somebody about their cognition, although they were really well placed to do that. And furthermore, practice nurses, when they're doing age-related health checks, they were really well placed to talk about cognition and talk about dementia, and could do things like offer leaflets, which would help nurse confidence if they didn't feel confident in just bringing up the subject of dementia. So recommendations for practice that were found from the review shows that there is a real big need for further research to identify knowledge-based deficiencies to inform development of targeted dementia education service. Lack of staff education can lead to inadequate and poor care, which in turn can lead to a reduced quality of life for somebody with dementia, as well as a higher overall cost to the healthcare sector. Good quality dementia education and training for health and social care staff was set as a priority by the Department of Health and Social Care. Yet a recent audit of the Dementia Training Standards Framework found that it was not sufficient to derive any impact on staff. Current research has shown that education should be for a minimum of 8 hours, and it should be delivered by an experienced clinician. This could be a dementia specialist nurse. There needs to be government investment in services and activities for people with dementia and their families. This literature review has found that nurses are rated as poor at signposting people to social activities and support groups. But it could be argued that there are very few local activities and support groups for nurses to signpost people to. Within most trusts now, there is the role of a dementia champion. So a recommendation for, personally, whilst out on practice as a student nurse, I've never come across a dementia champion. So enhancing that role would probably be really good, especially within the community. That role could be enhanced to really help. They could provide education for other nurses. They could provide education for carers. They could signpost people to support groups and other help that they might be out there. But obviously, the government investment obviously would be really good. But for us as nurses, enhancing the role as the dementia champion is something that we could do. So, in conclusion, this review aimed to determine the role of the community nurse in providing family-centred care to people with dementia. Despite the growing number of people being diagnosed with dementia and the increasing costs of caring for people with dementia in the community, there's very little evidence focused on supporting them. We've highlighted the current role of the community nurse and ways in which it could be enhanced, and obviously highlighted the need for further research and further funding. There's a QR code at the bottom there that provides all references that I've used for in this presentation. Thank you for listening, and I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody might have.
Thank you so much for that. Just be careful because I've just got a echo in the background as well because I'm in the main room. Is there any questions for Nicola out there? Okay, so we've got a few nurses actually at DBTH actually in the room. So one of the questions is there any actual plans for these champions within the community?
So within most trusts, there are dementia champions out there. From the research that I've gone through, there's not really much regarding dementia champions. So it's something that I will be taking.
Yes, I think the view in the room is that it's actually a really valid and important role. I just can see that Chris has got his hand up as well.
Yeah, great. Thanks very much, Nicola. That was really helpful. A few points for me, I think. So firstly, I just had a quick Google because Google is my friend. 25% of acute hospital beds are occupied by someone with dementia. And I think often, kind of anecdotally, the experience is that the admission is precipitated by a carer crisis. So an informal carer has been caring for an individual and caring often unseen by services, including community services, and then they get admitted, and then it's quite a protracted admission because then the support needs to be set up after they get into hospital rather than being set up in situ in community. So I think what you say is very valid, and clearly community nursing is well placed, although they can only do what they can do with patients and families they know about. I suppose the champion roles I'm a bit mixed on, and I'll tell you why. My experience tends to be you can spend a lot of time, you train someone up, they become a champion, and then people have career progression, they have ambition, and they move, and then suddenly there's a gap again. So I suppose it'd be interesting, kind of linking to the previous presentation, to look at the evidence around, be curious about champion roles, what makes them successful, how can we make them more resilient, how can we prevent that issue whereby you get a really good model up and running, and then someone moves roles for whatever reason, leaves the role, and there's suddenly a big gap, and we're back to where we started. So, but for me, it was an excellent presentation. So thank you very much. A really important topic. Thank you.
Thank you. That's like the first half of our dissertation. So the second half is how we'd implement this in practice. So what I have said throughout how I would implement it in practice is it's really important to get the whole team involved. So you have a dementia champion within that team, but their role is to really get everybody on board and make sure everybody really sort of takes on a bit of that role themselves, so that it's not just falling on one person's shoulders.
Thank you so much. Is there any other questions? And you've got really good feedback as well, Nicola, in the chat group if you want to have a look. A lot of people have really appreciated the presentation.
All right, thank you very much.
So moving on now, we have Donna Glossop from the MSK Education Lead at STH talking about the Human Library Through Your Eyes initiative.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute. Right, I'll just share my poster first, shall I? And then the presentation.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you.
Share screen. Can everybody see that?
I can't see it at the minute.
No, not yet.
No. Sorry, I don't know why it's not sharing. It's up on my screen.
So,
Right.
do you need any help, Donna?
Yeah, if you have the poster to share.
I have got your presentation.
Yeah, I've got the presentation. I just don't know whether it's sharing.
If you click on share screen.
Yeah, I'm on
and
that.
then click the PowerPoint window. When lots of windows would come in, and click on the PowerPoint one where your poster is.
Mm-hmm. No, can you put it up for me?
Okay.
It's not doing it.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, it's fine.
So I'm Donna Glossop. I'm lead educator for the MSK Care Group. I lead a team of 4. We do lots of training there, but we had, yeah, that's it.
Sorry to interrupt, Donna. Is that the one?
Yes, that's the one. Yeah.
Okay, so tell me when you want me to move the slides, okay?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, you can go on to the first slide, the next slide. So it's not a new idea, I wouldn't have thought, but the way we did it was we wanted to make it a little bit different. So I pitched an idea to our executives in a sort of Dragon's Den type way for some funding for it. So my idea was for us to have an afternoon of learning with the patient as our educator. And the plan was that we would have 6 service users come to each session with various conditions and genders and obviously disabilities. And they must have used our service at some sort in the last 12 months, not just the MSK service. We did make it trust-wide. 18 staff members from various services would join us on the day to be offered a place on the sessions. We didn't want people just turning up to do this, but we did want a lot of learning to come out of this. Next slide, please. So the funding was agreed. The aim was for us to improve the experience of patients by seeking some feedback from them. But we got lots of other things out of it, to be totally honest. And it became more of what does this mean to them having this illness. And we wanted to just drive some quality improvements, really. Develop staff by learning from patients, what matters to them, sharing good practice, and obviously our proud values at the Trust was at the heart of it all. Next slide. So the planning, we had to put posters out in all our outpatient departments and clinics for interested service users. At first, we wanted to know that we could get these amount of service users for these 3 sessions, and that's what the funding would be for. We needed to make follow-up calls. We needed an insight that there would be able to be no barriers for them to come and attend and share information. We needed to book a suitable room so that it had to be big enough for us all to be in there, not overhear everything on the other table sort of thing. And we needed some catering costs because we'd decided we'd make it a sort of afternoon tea type of event. And we was going to give the service users an M&S voucher for coming to us, and we would organise transport if that was needed. So we did focus groups with staff. Next slide, please. And in these focus groups, we had all grades of staff, from HCAs to matrons. We had a couple of nurse directors. We had physios, OTs, and patients. We spoke to patients on the wards about what they thought about it, relatives especially. you know, what came out of it as some staff are patients, you know, and they wanted to be involved in it as well. And we found that all staff really have relatives that are service users, but we had to pick and choose carefully who we would have. Next slide, please. So the considerations really was the risk, the health and safety risk, that patients would be safe physically and psychologically to talk about things, medically stable, obviously. We had to ensure confidentiality and data protection. So we didn't give anyone full names of anyone or what. We didn't want them to talk about what specific nurses or doctors that they came into contact with. Next slide, please. So these are just a few of the conditions that we had in our sessions. Obviously, some had more than one diagnosis. So I would say there was another 10 different ones to these, but some of them were repeated. So yeah, there was quite a few musculoskeletal problems, but we did have chronic kidney disease, someone who had a transplant. We had a few people with autism, and that was a sort of side thing apart from, you know, other things that was wrong with these people, long-term conditions. And what we found from the autism diagnosis was some people had been diagnosed at 60. Undiagnosed dementia was one. We found it very difficult to get someone with dementia, but we had a relative of someone with dementia, and one that appeared to us as being undiagnosed, and a type 1 diabetes, all things that were, to be honest, totally relevant to the nurses that came in. And it wasn't just nurses that attended our days. We had facilities management in there. We had matrons come. We had physios, OTs that come to the sessions. Next slide, please. So some of the feedback that we got, we had a tremendous amount of feedback, but the questions were relevant. I made some cards in case people run out of things to ask, or they felt they were being intrusive, or they were a bit shy to ask. And the cards were around activities of daily living and pain, and how does it feel to you? You know, I mean, what we wanted to know was we can get these ideas of what a condition is from a book, but we can't, and from university, all these sort of things. But when a patient tells you what the condition means to them, it's a totally different thing. These health stories, you know, some of it was quite emotional, the way people spoke about it, and they just loved telling us. Next slide, please. A little bit more feedback. We got feedback, which was 2 separate feedback sheets, one from patients and one from the staff that attended. That they were very open, they were very honest. The staff really wanted more of them. The service users was contacting me after saying, you know, if you have any more of these, I'd love to come and speak to more staff members. Currently writing a report on this because it's 6 months since the money came, to discuss learning and what moving forward we would do again, you know, things we would do differently, really. Next slide, please. Yeah, just more again of the feedback that we got. Yeah, we did have some difficulty getting some of the staff at first. I don't know whether it was the title of the thing. We did advertise everywhere. But once people start coming, they started going and telling other people about it. I think that might be the last slide. So yeah, we got so much. We got so much out of it. The patients did too. We've kept in touch with a few of them. You can stop sharing now. We had one person who didn't attend, who said they was going to attend, one of the patients, and I made sure that I followed up on it afterwards and make sure they were okay. And, you know, the reason why they hadn't attended, and just saying it's absolutely fine. We just wanted to know that you were okay. But the learning from it was great. We'd like to do more of it. I think the M&S voucher and the afternoon tea was, you know, an extra. Many of them said they would come without them sort of things. Only 2 people asked us for parking or transport costs, which was a really good thing. I don't know whether you can show the poster just so they can see. It has pictures of the attendees and some of the staff.
Okay, Donna, I'm not sure if I have got your poster because this is which I had.
All right. I sent the poster and then I was asked to send a PowerPoint afterwards. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So
Sorry.
that's it. If anybody wants to answer any question, I don't know how to share the poster. I've got it there, but I can't share it. Any questions?
Yes, Julie.
I was
Hi.
just saying, if you send the poster again to me, I'll be able to circulate it to everyone. Thank you. Sorry, Judy.
No,
Yes, I
that's
will.
fine, Paveen. So it's
Okay.
not a question at all, Donna. It's just an observation, and I just wanted to say, I think we've moved so far, and asking people what matters to you rather than what is the matter with you is just one more way. I think that we've really started to think about our profession in a very different way, the way we advocate for our populations and such like. And I've got horrible feedback. So, but it was just to say thank you.
Thank you.
Chris, you've got a question?
Yeah, thanks. Hi, Donna. Good to see you. I know a lot of work's been happening up within MSK on quality improvement. Just wonder from those sessions, is there an example of something you've taken out of the sessions and kind of taken straight into practice at all that you could share with us?
I think we've put some things on. We have nurse education days and we discuss a lot of learning that we got from this, a lot on pain, and it not just giving medication for pain. And when someone tells you they've got pain, for us to say, what does it feel like, the pain, not just, oh, which tablet do you want? You know, that sort of thing. And the other thing, I think a big thing that came out for me was when someone has abilities to do things on one day but not on the next day, and someone, when they come into hospital, they tend to find someone sees them on a good day, so they say, well, you could do it yesterday. You know, when they say, I can't do this, you know, I could do you. Yeah, well, I can't do it every day because this and this is happening today to prevent that. So we're trying to pass on the information on our nurse education days, really.
That's really good to hear. And just to say, one of our quality objectives next year is on pain management. So that sits really well. So hopefully be able to put some of that learning into that objective. Thanks very much, Sarah.
Thank you.
I'll come off mute. Thanks so much. I actually work with the Patient and Public Involvement Group as well at Doncaster, and it's always really relevant and valid to hear from the patients that have kind of got those lived experiences and knowing kind of I think we have these kind of preconceived ideas of what we think they might be going through, but actually hearing the stories themselves. Do you link them into like the research department? Because all I'm thinking from my perspective, because I work in the research team, is there any kind of research that they could be involved in, or any research questions that they could kind of bring forward that they might be able to help, or some quality improvement? So, you know, the questions that they're bringing to you, we could then kind of look at how we can support that.
Yeah, I bet there would be quite a bit of that. Yeah, like I say, I'm just in the midst of doing the report, and I think reliving it again to do the report, things are coming up to me, you know, things as looking through all my paperwork, it's masses of feedback that we got that I'm looking into, and I keep seeing something different each time I look through. So yeah, I'm sure there'll be some research going on.
Fantastic, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions before we move on to the next presentation? Nope. Okay, so next up is Maria Penna. She's the advanced clinical practitioner from the Chelsea and Westminster Hospital, and she's going to be talking about CCOT, advanced clinical practice, impact of improving the recognition and escalation of deteriorating patients. Are you able to share your presentation, Marie? Are you sharing your presentation?
You should be able to unmute yourself. She's stuck on my screen.
It looks like she's froze on us.
Yeah. Maybe we could bring in Blerta beforehand, and then Maria can go next. Would that work? Are you okay?
Hello.
Hi.
I am
Hello.
going to...
Yeah, we're representing Blerta.
Yes. Yes.
She's at work. She's working. So we can go now if you like.
Yeah. Is that okay?
So are you able to share your slides, or do you want me to?
Hello. Yeah.
How is it going, Emma? Can you hear us? I don't think they're able to hear us.
Parveen?
Yeah, can you hear us? Can you hear me, Nikki?
Yes, I can hear you, Parveen.
Yeah.
I can hear you too,
Emma, can you hear
Parveen.
Parveen?
Hi, I'm so sorry. I lost the connection.
Can anybody hear us?
She is speaking, I think. So
We can. Can you?
Yes.
She's speaking.
Okay, Maria, I was
Hi.
asking because you lost the connection, so I was asking Emma and Restore Nurses to go with their presentation first.
Yeah.
So let me just check if they are able to do it. If not, then we'll come back to you. Are you able to share your screen, Emma, or do you want me to?
Yeah, we've got the presentation here so we can present.
So can you share your screen then?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So Maria, can you do it after this? Is that
Yeah,
okay?
of course.
Yeah.
Of course, no problem.
Sorry
Thank
about
you. Okay, I think, am I sharing this screen now?
No, just click on the share screen button.
Share. It says it's disabled the participant screen sharing. I'll try again.
Okay, give me 1 second and I think it should allow you to do it.
Fab.
Do it now.
Okay. Yeah.
Can you do it?
Yeah, it's I think it's just been a bit slow. Yeah, it's just its time, but it's
Yeah, I've just got a blank screen at the minute.
okay. It must be getting stage fright with that. Yeah.
Okay, shall I bring them up for you?
I wonder, yeah, perhaps that'll be quickest.
Okay.
Oh, lovely, thank you.
Okay, go ahead. And when you want me to change the slide, just let me know. Are you there, Emma?
I can see the presentation now, Emma.
Parveen, I am at work clinically, but it looked like Emma is having a problem. So I will do the slides. Whenever Emma joins us, we will. So
okay, go on then.
Yes.
Fantastic, thank you.
So my name is Blerta and Emma is my colleague. We run the Restore program, which is the refugee nursing program in South Yorkshire. It is the only one of its kind program in the UK currently that focuses on the nurses that have qualified in their own home countries and have arrived in England as a refugee. Next slide, please.
About this, yeah, yeah. Sorry about this. Do you want me to carry on, Blerta?
Yes, please. Yes.
Right.
Thank you, Emma.
Yeah, sorry, the computer been so well behaved and now it isn't. Yeah, so very quickly, so yeah, sorry about that. I'm Emma. Yeah, I work on the Restore program with Blerta, and I'm here with Saba today.
Yeah, I'm one of the participants of the Restore, and my name is Saba, and I'm here to represent Restore today.
Lovely, thank you. And I'm just going to give a really quick whistle-stop tour of what Restore is. So you'll see on this slide here, it stands for Refugee Support Training, Orientation, Recruitment and Education, which is a really kind of nice acronym for Restore, because we like to think that well, the programme restores hope and faith, and it helps to restore people's dreams. Could we have the next slide, please? Yeah, that's our team. So we've got Blerta, who just met. Blerta is a nurse practitioner, and she also has lived experience as a refugee. We've got Tanya, who is who's our social media and tech consultant, and then me, Emma. So I'm a palliative care nurse at St Luke's, and I do this for 1 day a week. And yeah, my kind of goal and drive for this is that I'm a huge fan of nurses and nursing. I think we're very important people. As Karen said earlier, we're the essential life force for health, which I'm sure I'll keep using this phrase. And I love to see nurses reaching their potential, doing well. And there are no nurses who are further from reaching their potential than the ones who aren't able to work. Could we have the next slide, please? Thank you. So really quick introduction and background. We know that the UK is receiving, hopefully welcoming more, thousands of asylum seekers and refugees due to the levels of displacement because of war, poverty and natural disasters. And we know that many of these refugees and asylum seekers have healthcare backgrounds. Could we have the next slide, please? Thank you. So yeah, the rationale for Restore, it's it's in response to well, at the time there was a shortage of nurses in the UK. We don't think there is that shortage as such anymore. We know that the vacancies are being filled, but we know that we're always going to need nurses. We know that from our sort of preliminary research, we know that there is at least 50 nurses living in South Yorkshire as refugees. Thinking about the theme of this event about the economic value of care, it makes a lot of sense. Economically, it's kind of a bonus, but it only costs £2,000 to put for a nurse to go through the programme, which really isn't much when you're in comparison to international recruitment and also training nurses from scratch. And it's the kind of ripple effect of that. There's a huge benefit. So the impact on these people's lives, the impact on families of the nurses seeing their parent or spouse or whoever in work and no longer needing to claim benefits. There's that economic element, but most importantly, we think it's a moral obligation to support our nursing siblings back into the careers that they should be in. There's also a health inequality element of the programme, which is it's very important to have a workforce who reflect the diversity of the communities that we live in, so that the needs of all our communities, our diverse communities, are better understood. And just an example to illustrate that is Berta and I, we were with one of our nurses yesterday who's from Kurdistan, and she was saying how through working, so she's currently working as a healthcare assistant in Doncaster, and she's been able to act as an interpreter for when she has Kurdish patients, and how that allows that understanding of the culture. It allows a more a kind of accurate interpreting of the language, and also I can imagine the impact on the individual, the patient, who has a nurse who understands their culture, understands their language. And then also we know there's quite a hostile rhetoric towards immigration, but by showing how these nurses have got such a contribution to society, we hope that helps to counter that and shows a really positive impact of immigration. And also, a real important point of the programme is that it's very difficult trying to navigate the registration as a nurse when you've been educated overseas. It is really the NMC really tough to to navigate without support, without a specific programme. So that's where Restore comes in. Could we have the next slide, please? Okay, so with our vision, we don't just want to see the nurses on our programme become nurses. That's great. We obviously that's kind of the most basic thing that we hope. We want them to become nurses, but we really want them to thrive in their roles, to have jobs that reflect their experience. As Saba's going to explain soon, there's so much experience and expertise that these nurses have. So we really want them to thrive. And we, as far as we're aware, we're the only programme for refugee nurses across the country. There are various other programmes, but we're the only one exclusively for nurses. And we want to see the programme, what we have, we want to see it replicated across the rest of the UK. And also Berta and I and the nurses, we do lots of talking all over the place really about the importance of trauma-informed employment, which is a kind of kinder, more flexible, more inclusive approach to recruiting and employing people. Could we have the next slide, please? So yeah, how it started. We've been going for exactly a year. The programme began by researching existing programmes out there. So there's, you know, Reach, Talent Beyond Boundaries, Repod, but most of these, well, yeah, they all focus on medics. It's less. It's yeah, like I said, with only one exclusively for nurses. That's our, you know, nurses are our priority. So wrote and submitted a business case that was accepted. We had funding for a year to do a pilot across South Yorkshire ICB, so supported by South Yorkshire ICB and the training hub. Then we've made great friends with all the trusts in South Yorkshire, so it's Barnsley, Rotherham, Doncaster, STH, so that we can tell them about what we're doing. And from there, we've been able to help our, the participants into jobs. We've got an English teacher, an English provider. We've got a home. We live at the job centre on West Street, and since then, I guess the rest is history. We received referrals for participants onto the programme, and we're just raising awareness to try and keep these referrals coming. Next slide, please. So the inclusion criteria, so people who are accepted onto the programme are nurses and midwives who have a degree or a diploma after 3 years of study, people who've got a refugee status or are the spouse or family member of a refugee. We've just got funding for South Yorkshire, so yeah, just based in South Yorkshire, and with a level of English that is safe to practice and kind of a good level of English to build on. And I've underlined ability to commit to the programme because it is an intense programme, as Saba will agree. It's you've got to be really committed. You've got to be very, yeah, it's intense. So you've got to really want it. Could I have the next slide, please? So what do we actually do? What is our model of delivery? So our participants, we help them to find a job as a support worker in an NHS trust. Alongside that, we offer pastoral support. So we've developed those therapeutic relationships and supporting each other. We're a real community, support each other however we can. And then you'll see there's along the middle there, those are the various tests that people have to do. So there's an English test, there's the OSCE test, so most as nurses will remember what OSCE is, you know, showing our nursing skills, and the CBT, which is a computer test. So there's 3 tests that nurses have to complete alongside completing a checklist with the NMC. And we also deliver nursing teaching to show what does it mean to be, you know, but to give an idea, like what does it mean to be a nurse in the NHS in the UK? So talking about the NMC code, the different specialities, and at the end, I'm going to invite anyone to come and do some teaching who feels like they've got things to share. The next slide, please.
Emma, can I just please request to conclude sooner? We are running behind, so it will be good to, and people may have to go kind of after 12. So I'm just trying to make sure that everybody had a chance to speak, if that's okay.
In that case, I'll skip to, we'll skip right to the end and and Saba can conclude if that's okay. So shall we go to the last slide? So yeah, referrals, that's us. We get referrals from anywhere. So if we skip right to the end, please. So yeah, we've got 20 nurses on our programme, 16 working as support workers. Our first group, which includes Saba, is about to take OSCE exam, and then we'll be able to be working as a nurse by the end of the year. Just to the couple more slides, please. As Blur to meeting the King. Just go right to the end, and then we've got our email address. And people can contact us if you'd like to refer anyone to us, if you'd like to get involved as a volunteer in any way. Saba, we'll just turn to you briefly. Can you tell us what you're up to at the moment? So you're working as a HCA.
Hi, as I told before, my name is Saba, and I was working as a scrub nurse in cardiac operation theaters back home. And when I moved to UK, so firstly, it was difficult for me to rejoin my profession again. And Restore played a part of map for me. Like they showed the path to all the participants of Restore, how we can be a nurse again in this country. So after joining Restore, I prepared for my English exam. I joined the classes which Restore arranged for us, and then I have passed my OET. After that, I have passed my CBT. That's the computer-based test, which is about the NMC rules and regulations. And after that, now I'm looking forward to doing my OSCE soon, which is Restore arranged in June, end of the June. So it's my biggest dream to be a registered nurse in UK soon, that I can be the scrub nurse again in cardiac operation theatre. And the other thing is that about employment, the Restore helped us to prepare for interview to get the job in Sheffield Teaching Hospital. So I prepared my interview with Restore mentors like Blerta and Emma, and then successfully I have passed my interview and I got job in cardiac operation theatre. Luckily, that's a great privilege for me to go again in my department. I was very happy to join my department, and I'm thinking soon after passing OSCE, I can be a scrub nurse. And I can learn the new technologies, and I can get more qualification to elevate the standard of my profession. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma, and thank you, Saba. Do we have any question? Just one question somewhere. Yes, Chris?
It's not a question. I just want to say welcome, Saba, to SGH. Hope you have a long career with us. Hope to bump into you soon. Thanks, Paveen.
Thanks. Thanks. And I have two chance to met Chris before. I got my employment certificate by Chris. So I told Chris about Restore that time. So it's a good chance to see exceptional and experienced and qualified nurses here. And I've listened them today, and I've seen all of you. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for your presentation, guys. So next up, Maria, are you okay now to present? Sorry for the IT technical issues, as we always have things. If you're happy to share your screen, and you're going to be talking about the advanced clinical practice and the impact in improving, recognising and escalating of deteriorating patients.
And if I can please request, if we can just keep compact and to the time, so that people are able to hear you and we can finish on time. Thank you. Sorry about this.
No, Parveen, would you mind to allow me to share my screen? It says disabled.
You should be able to now.
Okay. Is everyone seeing my screen? Are you seeing the screen?
I can't see anything.
Let me do it for you. Can you see it now?
Yes, Parveen.
Okay, go on, Maria.
I'm not seeing it. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
So probably I'll just talk. I couldn't see the screen. I don't know what's happening with my signal. I'm very sorry. So I'm probably just gonna talk through with the one that I'm the project that we've done on Chelsea and Westminster Hospital. So my name is Maria Lorena Pena. I'm the critical care outreach lead and advanced clinical practitioner at Chelsea and Westminster Hospital. So just to give you a background, so we put the title on our quality improvement project as the recognition and escalation of deteriorating patients, as in short, REDIP. So to give you the background, as you know, it is globally shared challenges in recognizing this deterioration timely without delay. But within our trust, we experienced these cases of failure. Hence, it was brought to our team the attention to respond to improve the practice of the nurses. So what's the importance of this? So I just kind of really go back to what Karen had just said this morning about never underestimate the impact of nurses. And this is the best, one of the best example to show you what have we done as an outreach advanced clinical practitioners on improving the practice of the nurses. I really couldn't see the slides, but if you can move the
Yeah,
can you
you've
see
got
the
one
slide now?
with the map on.
Yes, so we have formed a steering group, as you can see. With our unwavering effort, it was not easy to get the senior leaders' engagement and support on this project, but eventually, with our kind of effective communication on the impact of the problem, the severity of the problem, we managed to get the deputy director, the senior leaders to support us. So just to basically show you this steering group. Next slide, please. So showing you the advanced clinical practice kind of impact. So basically the 4 pillars, we're just showing this on these slides, how we utilize the 4 pillars of ACP in implementing this project. So with our advanced clinical skills and knowledge, we managed to design a concept of observation rounds where we standardize the observation time, so kind of enhancing the monitoring of patients. So I'll explain to you later on the specific kind of details of the observation rounds, but with these clinical skills that we have, we embedded a good and enhanced monitoring of patients. So with the leadership, as you know, we utilize our leadership skills in developing ready champions, as we call it. And we had established a good collaborative culture with the key stakeholders, including the corporate nursing, in engaging this project. And we utilize a data-based leadership, as we call it, because we managed to develop a digital dashboard. We also employed the approach of assigning each critical care outreach nurse to support a ward. So they have a designated ward to work with the ward managers. So those are kind of things, one of the things that we employed. Education, as you call, as one of the pillars of the ACP, we have kind of designed a robust training programs to enhance the nurses' skills in managing deteriorating patients. When you say research, how did we utilize this research skills? It's like with our knowledge with handling the data, we managed to effectively monitor and evaluate the performance of our project. The next slides, please. So our objectives for this project is the 90% compliance against the NEWS2 audit and completions. So on our audit, we ensured that, we checked if the nurses are accurately completing the NEWS2 parameters and adhering to the policy of repeating observations when the first trigger within 15 minutes and an hour. And there's an evidence of escalation. We also use as a key KPI the reduced serious incident reports on failure to rescue due to failure to recognize. So we're monitoring the DATEX record if there's any kind of evidence that there's a reducing cases of the incidences. Next slides, please. So now this is one of the main interventions that we implemented, the observation round. So it might not be new to you about the 10-6 OBS, but what this concept based on was on the gaps that we identified. So what we found was that because of the HCAs were the ones who's mainly doing the observations in the wards, there were inconsistencies and discrepancies. So there was no standardized time. So the HCAs was kind of left to decide on when to do the observation. That led to the deterioration of patients not being recognized by the nurses. So we introduced the 10-6 OBS. So for this reason there's a shared accountability between HCAs, clinicians, and MDT. So how this kind of being shared? Because we have a deteriorating patient dashboard where it's an electronic system where it's kind of using us as a central monitor for the whole trust. So this dashboard gives us these patients who's deteriorating. So at these times, now we are now all in the same page to check the patient's observations remotely to see if there's anyone deteriorating. On top of this, with the observation rounds, as you know, Martha's Rule call for concern is kind of the hot topic across the country. With these observation rounds, we are able to put a structured kind of process in place where we're able to not just the observations being checked, but also their clinical needs and concerns. So at these times, you can see that patients are going to be fully checked if they are okay and get their kind of concerns. You can see the highlight of 2 a.m. because we don't want everyone to be awake at 2 a.m. So we designed and we kind of modified our approach on this when nurses are governed to check their patients, but not to wake them up if their respiratory rates are within normal range. As you know, the respiratory rate is the first sign of deterioration, so hence we use the respiratory rate as the parameter to check at these times. We also use this poster, as you can see on this poster on the right-hand side, where we attach this on the observation machines. So even the agency and bank nurses is a very straightforward message that what they need to do during these rounds. So it is well embedded on this message of this poster, the trust policy. Next slides, please. So these are the posters we designed. We also designed a pathway, a deteriorating patient sepsis pathway, where all the nurses and clinicians will be guided. And I think with this poster really help for them to be reminded of their responsibilities. So they cannot tell us where we don't know. We're not aware of what to do because there's so many things that's now in place in kind of being asked of us to do with regards to the observations. So yeah, so you can see this in across the trust. Now I'm just showing to you guys one of the interventions that we use is we have a very good monitoring system, digitalized monitoring system. So we developed this deteriorating patient dashboard as what I was explaining to you earlier. So on one click, all these patient scoring you can see on this page. So there's no reason for anyone to miss this patient. It's only a bit about of them knowing how to use this. So we kind of highlighted on our interventions on how to use this efficiently. Because everyone is kind of saying, oh, we didn't know that there's a deteriorating patient dashboard, even the clinicians. So now everyone is aware, and now we can easily spot those patients who's deteriorating. Next slides, please. So other interventions I've mentioned, the CCOT bodies and the senior leader engagement. This really helped because we regularly having a meeting with the senior leaders and managers and look at the performance of the nurses and find some effective strategies if they are failing. Next slides, please. So we done in monitoring and evaluation, we done a manual audit at first. So for 6 months, we randomly chose 10 patients per ward. So it was a robust, it's actually a very kind of laborious method in the sense that each nurse CCOT has to do a audit on their own wards and use their clinical judgment to see if these patients on our deteriorating patients list are being monitored accordingly. Next slides, please. So this is one of the results that we done. You can see the improvement from this August that we pre-implementation of the project, and on March 2023, you can see the big improvement of their performance. Next slides, please. So this is a very specific kind of in detail metrics that we used. We audited. You can see the trend, and many wards kind of showed an improved performance. Next slides, please. So this last February, we done a manual audit again. So we stopped the manual auditing in March last year, but we thought we'd do a random audit this February, and we kind of found that still they're maintaining their performance of achieving 89%. You can see it's highlighted there, the green. Why I was showing this table to you is because it is in this way that now we found an approach where nurses are kind of recognized. Who are these nurses? Kind of performing well. So those green ones are the compliant ones. So on this table, you can see we're kind of, because we have a detailed information of the patients deteriorating. So we pick that thing up and see if the nurses are kind of compliant. So if they're compliant, we send them a Gratix. We call them Gratix. So you know the Datix? So we call it Gratix to appreciate their performance and to kind of boost their morale. Those on the red ones, you can see they're non-compliant. So we try to approach them in a very kind of constructive way to offer them support on how we're going to offer trainings to enhance their kind of skills in monitoring. So it's one of the approach that we thought it's very effective in getting the nurses involved and engaged with us. Next slides, please. So what I'm going to show you on the next few slides, what are the other positive outcomes that we achieved? As you know, we have a national audit that we're doing. So with the sequence recording and appropriate response to NEWS2 score for unplanned critical care admissions. So it's very evident with all the measures that we introduce in the wards, it kind of really showing us a good performance on this national audit, and we're maintaining the more than 90% consistently. So all the ICU consultants, all the senior clinicians kind of attributing this achievement on our project that we've done in the trusts. Next slides, please. Again, another positive outcomes that we found. So we look at how many unplanned admissions from the wards, basically. So on 2018, there were 57 patients, dropped down to last year to 37 patients. So again, it was kind of looking at on how we are managing these patients in the ward effectively and efficiently.
Maria, can we please conclude soon?
Yeah, I will conclude soon. So I just kind of saying this, I'm nearly done. So the Datix incident report, you can see we have the 50% reduced cases. So and next slides, please. So this is another, you might find it, as I spoke to so many trusts, so not many trusts has this dashboard. So we develop an analytic database dashboard. So we step away from manual auditing. So you might find everyone here useful. In this dashboard, we are able to monitor the performance of the trust and how we are performing in managing the deteriorating patients. And you can see on the left bottom side that it's though difficult to achieve, but our trust is kind of slowly improving their performance. Next slides, please. And this is our kind of just showing you our awareness day and the event that we awarded those awards that's performing well. And I think our future plan is continue finding a sustainability plan, and now we are developing digitalized technology, as in like AI, artificial intelligence, to pick up and those deteriorating patients directly from our electronic patients recording system and directly notify the CCOT and clinicians. So that's where we are at the moment, and also improve, involvement of patients' care and families in evaluating the intervention. And that's the end of the presentation, and hope you found it useful. Any question?
Thank you so much, Maria. Any question? Maybe if we could just limit to one or two. And in the meantime, Chris, there's only one poster talk left, which is, I think, for about 5 minutes. Are you okay for time, or would you like to, you and Julie would like to do first and then?
I'm probably gonna struggle if there's another one to go, Parveen. I probably need to try and I've got about 5 minutes left, so yeah, happy to either watch the poster, but probably won't be able to speak afterwards.
Okay, so Julie, do you want to come in and
Yes, of course.
And Abby, we are going to listen to your poster after Chris's talk. Chris has got a meeting and he needs to go, and we are running short. And any questions for Maria, if you could just write into the chat box. Maria, your presentation was really very, very interesting, very useful. And I wish we had more time to discuss it, but I'm sure people would have questions, and I do have, but that's really great work. Thank you. Over to you, Julie.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Is everybody on mute, please? Because there's a lot of feedback coming. That's better. Thank you. Okay, so it's my pleasure to introduce Chris Morley, who's the Chief Nurse for Sheffield Teaching Hospitals NHS Foundation Trust. Chris has been Chief Nurse at Sheffield Teaching Hospitals since October 2018, having previously been Chief Nurse at the Rotherham NHS Foundation Trust. Prior to this, Chris was Deputy Chief Nurse at Sheffield Teaching Hospitals, where he has previously held a number of leadership roles in healthcare governance, patient safety, and nursing management. Chris possesses a BMed Sci in professional nursing studies from the University of Sheffield and an MSc in health and social care leadership from Sheffield Hallam University. Chris is a visiting professor in the College of Health and Wellbeing and Life Sciences at Sheffield Hallam University. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you very much, Julie. That was great. I think it was me that was off mute, so it was me that was causing the feedback, so sorry about that. So, yes. So good morning, everyone. I'm not going to take very long because there's another speaker. I think it's probably more important that you hear from them than hearing from me. But firstly, for me, happy International Nurses Day for Sunday coming, and for anyone who is a midwife, happy International Midwives Day for last Sunday. I hope you had a good day. Fascinating morning. Thank you to all the speakers. And I thought, just in terms of summing up, I thought if I took the theme of the economic power of care and linked it to each of those topics that we've heard about. So first of all, we heard from Richard and the breaks in studying initiative. And if you think about that, in terms of any learning we can have, any improvements we can make to ensure that anyone who does have a break in their study is able to re-engage and be successful, that will be a benefit in terms of the economy, in terms of people being trained to be health professionals or whatever course they were on, because Richard covered more than just nursing, but also the economic benefit probably to the individual themselves. So really important that we learn and look at that area. Sarah and Nikki talked to us about the Curiosity Cafe, and clearly that's a way of generating new knowledge and improvement. And by doing that, again, we can impact the economy, we can make things more efficient, we can make things better. And you only have to look back over time and think about some of the changes we've made over time to how things are more efficient now than they once were through the application of knowledge and research. Nicola gave us a very powerful presentation on dementia and the role of carers, the community nursing coordination. And again, anything we can do to improve in this space will help to reduce care costs generally, maximise carer support, informal carer support, but improve the lives of people with dementia. So again, all of that can impact positively on the economy. Donna's work I thought was fascinating, patient as the educator. We often hear about consultants coming in to help us in the health service, look at things, and wow, that's free consultancy, isn't it? Getting patients in, or very cheap consultancy, if nothing else, getting patients in to tell us their story really helps us to improve our services, but at a low cost in terms of that knowledge that we're gaining from them. Really enjoyed hearing from the Restore nurses and that story. And if you haven't had a chance, read the chat to see Mimi's testimony, heartfelt testimony, and what it means to her. Really powerful. And again, we're able to benefit from that clinical expertise. You've heard from Shaba about coming to join us in our cardiac theatre. Actually, that's an area we need more expertise. So that's a win-win for everybody. So that's great. And then finally, and I'm really sorry we had to rush through for Maria, but that was an excellent conversation about escalating deteriorating patients, and preventing deterioration massively reduces costs, because we can sometimes avoid expensive interventions, improve people's lives, and for some people that would be improving their economic life as well as their life overall. So overall, Julie, thank you. It's been a really enjoyable morning, a great way to celebrate International Nurses Day. And I think, to paraphrase Karen, it just shows never underestimate the power of nurses. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. And thank you, Chris, for joining us this morning. Parveen.
Thank you, Chris. Apologies for running late. Because there was some students and presenters who are doing it for the very first time. So I just wanted to be kind to everyone. But because of the technical difficulties, we ran out of time. So apologies about that. But your presence have been really great. Thank you so much. Okay, so that means that, so please stay with us if you can, but we completely understand if you're not. So that means that we are ready for our last presenter, who is Abby. Abby, are you ready? Abby is a nursing student at University of Sheffield. Am I correct that saying, Abby? I'm
Yeah,
getting
that's
stressed
right.
now, so I'm making mistakes.
Can you hear me okay, everybody?
Yes, yeah.
Lovely. So yeah, my name's Abby and I'm a third year student nurse at the University of Sheffield. So my poster presentation that Parveen's going to put up covers it's a whistle-stop tour of my literature review that I completed I did the searching in October 2023. So I've got a keen interest in sort of working with refugees and asylum seekers. I think it's a really, really interesting area of nursing. So I wanted that to be represented in my literature review. Would you be okay to share my poster, Parveen, please?
Yes, just give me 1 second.
Thank you.
And here we are. So Abby, if we could just stick to time, that would be really great. I'm sorry about refreshing it. I don't mean to, but in the interest of time, and I want everybody to.
No, thank you again for giving me time to do this. I will just do a really quick whistle stop tour. It's yeah.
Here you go. Is that the one?
Yes, that's the one. So my question that I focused on for my literature review was, do migrants, including refugees and asylum seekers, encounter barriers when accessing primary care in the UK? So for my background, I looked at sort of like the statistics around what was going on with the asylum system at the minute and migrants in general. So as you can see, approximately 14.5% of the UK population in 2021 was made up of people born outside of the UK. In 2022, there were 63,089 applications made for asylum, which was up 77% from 2019. And it's noted that refugees and asylum seekers have more complex health needs than that of the general population. I managed to get some more up-to-date recent figures for my poster presentation. So in the year ending June 2023, 16% of all immigrants in the UK were made up of asylum seekers and refugees. So I think these figures highlighted the need to kind of look into this area a bit more. So as you can see under my methodology, I conducted a literature review using a systematic approach in 2023. You can see what databases I used on there, and I applied limiters, which got me down to 8 articles. The emerging themes after critical analysis of my articles were that, as well as the 3 that I've mentioned on my poster, there were also things like a lack of understanding on how to access NHS services, also the fear of arrest and deportation, particularly since the Immigration Act of 2014 sort of focused on a hostile environment policy towards migrants. So when I looked at my key themes, language barriers was a big one. It can lead to miscommunication, therefore impacting patient safety and satisfaction. Professional interpretation services are underutilised, which was another thing that I found. And it also has an impact on the nurses delivering the healthcare. The language barriers can mean that they are then struggling to provide that healthcare to their patients. My second theme was a lack of understanding from healthcare professionals. And study by Scott Ford and Wedderburn suggested that healthcare professionals' knowledge around caring for migrants could be improved. And it's evident from the studies that there does need to be more training around caring for this group of people. And finally, administration barriers. 19% of patients were wrongly refused registration with a GP. And prior to undertaking this literature review, I was unaware of the fact that they do not need proof of address or immigration status in order to register with the GP, which I found really interesting, because I think there is an assumption there that you do need these identity checks before you can have registration with a GP. And again, that was one of the main reasons for their refusal with registration. So as part of our literature review, we had to come up with some recommendations for practice. So for mine, based on a study by Rajeswari and Wright in 2023, one of my recommendations was to integrate more teaching into undergraduate nursing programs for inclusion for migrants, mandatory training around migrant health and inclusion, and introduction of migrant inclusion champions within trusts to offer support to both patients and staff in regards to caring for this group of people. And finally, to conclude, I've put that further research is needed to identify steps to be taken to overcome barriers that migrants encounter. And I think introduction of more teaching in undergraduate programs will be really, really beneficial. So that's just a really quick whistle-stop tour of my literature review, and I'm happy to take any quick questions if anybody's got any. Thank you.
Thank you, Abby. That has been really great and very well done on being able to developing the literature. We're doing it and presenting it. And our student nurses are our future. And I think all of us are trying to encourage as much as we can. So really great to see you and others who have presented today.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so that really brings us to the close of the conference, and I believe everybody has spoken about, and I also realized that I have not introduced myself at the start of the conference, and I've not introduced Julie either. Very classic of me, but then I expect all of you to know both of us actually, and we don't need any introduction. So I would like to ask Professor Julie McGarry, who is a Professor of Nursing and Gender-Based Violence at University of Sheffield and Sheffield Teaching Hospitals. Julie is a registered nurse and registered nurse and an adult registered nurse and in mental health fields as well. And her research is around gender-based violence, intimate partner violence, domestic abuse, and her more recent work is around research capacity building among nurses, midwives, and allied health professions. So Julie, over to you for a few words and to thank you participants. And then I have a few names to mention, and then we are good to finish.
Perfect. Thank you, Parveen. So first of all, I'm going to be really brief because I think this morning would be a hard act to follow. So firstly, I wanted to thank everybody. So attendees, organisers, presenters, keynote speakers, just really sending a huge thank you to you all. I've been part of the nursing profession for 43 years this year, so I hope there's a prize for the longest person here. And I'm still immensely privileged to be part of nursing, and especially at events such as today, when we can see the breadth of the ways in which nurses are leading, championing even, and advocating for people and the nursing profession as a whole worldwide. Particularly, I think today has really illuminated how nurses, wherever they are, both geographically and in their career, are not just reacting to events, but also proactively tackling real-world problems and issues. And I just want to say, long may that continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. And a few last housekeeping sort of stuff. I've entered a link into the chat box. Please, if you would like to have a certificate for your participation, just please fill that form in. It just requires your name, email address, just a simple thing. So it will really help us then to send you a certificate. I would also like to thank a few people, especially those who have spent a lot of time in the background developing this event and bringing it to where they are, but have not been in the front light because of various commitments. And I hope that was not my oversight either. So I'm very grateful to Ash, Dr. Ash Thalpur, who has taken a central role in organizing it. Amy Webster, who is our research fellow at Sheffield Teaching Hospital. So Ash and Amy and Julie has really helped develop the whole program for today. I'm grateful to Nikki for having a telepathic connect with me and understanding what I want and what I need without even telling her, and standing up and doing that. And of course, Sam, who I just think that I've already told her things, and actually when I've just already thought about things in my mind. So I think a lot of those people, all of those who have attended the event, thank you so much. Have I missed anyone, Julie, who has contributed to development of the program or something? Have I missed any names?
Just yourself, and I've just popped it in the chat.
And I haven't, and also Sarah and other colleagues who are really, really essential to us, that they themselves are not nurses, but they enabled all the work that nurses do. A lot of the evidence synthesis that have been presented today by students, by the work which has been done at DBTH, and Sarah has been my partner in crime for past 2 years, doing webinars and seminars and that we offer every month about research and publications. And I could not do it without her. So thank you, everybody, all of you who have come were able to attend, and all of you who have contributed in any shape or form. And I hope you have enjoyed and you have had some useful information from this event. And thank you so much. Unless there's anybody would like to say anything, any comment or anything else, I understand that I've been rushing it towards the end. So if anyone would like to say anything, please do. And if there are people who would like to leave, that's fine too. I'll just stay till the end. Alia. Sorry, I just saw your raise hand.
Good afternoon, Dr. Parveen and all the team members, for a very successful, very well organized and very well executed program. I thoroughly enjoyed. I missed some content in the between because of networks, but overall everyone has done their best, and I wish you all the best, and I wish you all a very happy International Nurses and Midwife Day to all, and I hope that we all nurses contribute to achieve the better patient's outcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alia. Thank you so much, and thanks for joining us. Anybody else would like to say anything, any comments or any questions or... Okay, if that's not, then thank you so much. Please do ask any questions from the presenters if you have any. I really like Marie's presentation at the end, and I wish I had time to kind of explore that further, but hopefully we'll connect otherwise. But thank you, everybody, and have a good day, and happy International Nurses Day, because it's Friday, so it's on Sunday. So I hope this week and weekend is good for you, and see you next year.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.